Happy Memorial Day, everybody. Welcome to the Kristian Harloff Show. I am John Rocha sitting in for Kristian Harloff, who is taking the day off today. So we are going to be talking box office stuff, the Mandalorian and Grogu situation, how it did, how it didn't do, what was the result, what was the result of the opening weekend, how people reacted to it. We got so much to get into, some other superhero stuff, film stuff, but also, it's kind of an open show today. So let me know what you want to talk about there in the chat. And I'll be right back after this opening video to start the show. Here we go. It's the Kristian Harloff Show Monday. It's Memorial Day. Welcome. Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Kristian Harloff Show. I am John Rocha, sitting in, former Army man, sitting in for Kristian Harloff. Isn't that amazing? The civilian takes the day off, but the military man, former military man, works on Memorial Day. But hey, that's how it is. We're always serving the country, to protect the country and do what is best for the country and get the country to keep moving along and what have you. So we'll just make the Kristian Harloff Show a microcosm of the country as well. The other civilian is off as well. Luke is hanging out in parts unknown. Oh, wrestling term there. Also taking the day off while the military man works. But that's okay. That's how it works here in the business sometimes. And I was excited to come on and do the show today. Hope you all are doing well. Hope you all had a good weekend. We had a very busy weekend on my end. The Lady Outlaws family was in town to celebrate a renewal of vows for her aunt and uncle, their 50th anniversary together. And then our friends, her cousin, their 10th anniversary together. We celebrated that over in Coronado, which is the first time I'd ever been there since I moved down here to San Diego. I'm not a guy who ventures out anymore into too many areas. And I'd heard a lot of drama about Coronado because there's a lot of people, a lot of tourists, a lot of stuff going on. So I wasn't sure about going. And for those of you who don't know about Coronado, it's in San Diego, but you got to cross this bridge. If you've ever been to Comic-Con, there's the San Diego Convention Center, and then you got to cross this long bridge. And on the other side of the bridge is Coronado, which is like this kind of rich enclave of people and area. And there's a lot of really cool restaurants and cool eateries there and places there as well. But we went there and I just never experienced Coronado before, and I thought it was pretty amazing. So we will be back when we have less familial obligations down the road. But it was a very good time. They had a room. We had a lot of fun there. I got to see some of her family that hadn't seen in quite some time, meet some of the kids who've been born over the last few years. And also we got to do some karaoke to wrap up the night, which was a lot of fun, doing a little Neil Diamond, a little Journey, and what have you. But yeah, it was a really good time. So I had fun on so many levels. So thank you all so much for hanging out with me this morning. The only person who's working today, we don't classify what PLD does as work. He just kind of sits there and giggles the whole time for 2 hours. So I don't classify that as work. He may be around. He may be here on the show, I guess, hanging out in the background. But I'm the man holding it up and working here today. So there it is. There it is. Now, you just heard from PLD. There it is, contributing. Of course, that is exactly what he sounds like in the morning after his night of nachos. But we love you guys. Thank you for hanging out with us this morning. We're gonna get so many topics, as I said, but remember, super chats are open, and the new process now is contributing, hitting a certain amount, or hitting a lot of getting the most amount of money per day. So I would love it if you guys sent in super chats and asked whatever you guys want to talk about, whatever you guys want to ask about. Maybe I can win the week here as a military man on Memorial Day working. You guys would be kind enough to send in contributions, send in support as we go along here today. Over 200 of you hanging out with us, hanging out right now. So we really appreciate it madly. Okay, let's talk about the first thing. Let's bring it up here and talk about it. Where is the, what have we got here? Is it the update? Yeah, here we go. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about the box office. Let's see what I look like. It's always a interesting conundrum to see what I look like when I'm doing the solo shows. No, that's not it. That's not it. That's not it. That's not it. Oh, well, I guess I should have set something up ahead of time, but I'm working with PLD, so it's not like it can be set up correctly. But let's see if we can make this a little bit bigger. Let's see, zoom in. All right, yeah, that's as big as it gets, I guess. So there you go. Let's go through it all here. The box office, all Mandalorian and Grogu set for a $167 million global debut after bigger than expected U.S. box office haul. Variety reveals that The Mandalorian and Grogu is now on track to open with 82 million over the 3-day weekend and an estimated 102 million over the 4-day Memorial Day holiday. As the trade explains, it's significant for any film to debut above 100 million in a post-pandemic times, but a truer test of commercial viability will be the film's second weekend in theaters. That'll indicate whether The Mandalorian and Grogu is just appealing to fans of the franchise or if the movie can become a breakout among family crowds. Any box office analyst with 1 day of experience could tell you that. At the international box office, The Mandalorian and Grogu grossed 64 million for a global start of 145 million over 3 days and 165 million over the 4 days. Mando and Grogu's Rotten Tomatoes score sits at 62% with the critics, but with 89% on the fan-generated popcorn meter, along with an impressive cinema score, which I think is A-. It seems Lucasfilm has delivered a genuine crowd pleaser with its first Star Wars movie since 2019. Will that translate to box office success? While some insiders have claimed that merchandise is vastly more important than ticket sales, the movie is still off to a solid start, with 33 million on Friday and an estimated 25.5 million on Saturday for a revised 97 million to 98 million 4-day debut. That's up from yesterday's 91 to 96 million dollar predictions. That's pretty good. The Mando Grogu Saturday is higher than Solo Star Wars story, 24.6 million. So $100 million opening is still in play. Let's see. The 2018 spinoff also opened on Memorial Day weekend, while Solo was considered a box office disappointment. A change in directors and extensive reshoots meant it cost almost as much as the eventual global haul of 393 million. Jon Favreau's Mando and Grogu, however, is only 160 million to produce, meaning it should break even at least. Profitability is another matter, though, but as one talent rep tells Deadline, sometimes these movies make more merchandise than the actual movie. That's an interesting narrative, but Mandalorian franchise does shift a lot of toys, and the adorable Grogu has a huge role in this movie. Word of mouth will be crucial and could help this fan favorite duo soar in the weeks ahead. Agreed. The trade has heard that the international box office is somewhere around 69 million, pointing to Mando and Grogu having a worldwide bow about 167. That's slightly above the original 160 million estimate, but that overseas number is dipped from extended 80 million. Elsewhere, focus features and, well, actually, let's just deal with that. So from the update that we have, it is on track to open with 82 million over the 3-day weekend and an estimated 102 million over the 4-day Memorial Day holiday. That's, it's pretty good. It's not great. It's not like gangbusters. And I think people who are trying to compare it to, what do you call, like a installment of the franchise, like a trilogy installment, I think that's a mistake. I think honestly, this is coming off a TV show, a streaming TV show. The 3rd season wasn't that strong. It lost some fans. The first 2 seasons were great, but people also connect this show to the times of COVID, and it really blew up during COVID. It's like a lot of these shows that came around during COVID, like The Boys and other shows that came around. Like they don't always. I think Boys was just before COVID, but they don't always like translate to extended continued success, right? So the fact that they took a chance and made this into a movie, and I think it was like Disney when they approached Moana 2, they were like, well, look, we could do a series, but Iger comes in and goes, no, make this a movie, get The Rock back in here, let's reshoot and re-record some stuff and make a movie. Look, it made $1 billion, I think, in the end, Moana 2, or I think just under, which is pretty amazing. So I think they're hoping that this thing might have some legs, especially with kids, to get to 500 million. The fact that it opened better than they expected. Now, I know it isn't like 20 million or 30 million, as we've seen some other films do over the last few months. I still think this is a good opening for a film like this, considering the circumstances. Now, you can come in with your takes of like lowest opening Star Wars movie, which I think is really ignorant. It's not, yes, it's factually correct, but it's not really contextually correct. It's not really perspective. The perspective isn't really there to correctly assess it if that's your angle that you're taking. And I see a lot of anti-woke, anti-DEI, angry at Star Wars YouTube channels taking that one thing, removing context and just harping on it. And I think that's so childish because it's not really authentic to what's actually going on, which is, yes, the brand is damaged. There's no doubt that the brand is damaged. The question becomes, though, the fact that it overperformed, even by a few million, I think speaks to the fact that people do still have faith in the franchise. People do still have faith in the brand. People do want to give it a chance if they hear that it's good or at least decent. And yes, this is a film that could be critics proof, according to a lot of other, like a lot of other movies that we've seen recently being critics proof. This could be a critics proof movie as well. And I think this could be interesting to see how it all plays out when the run is over. Will it get to 400, 500 million? Will it surprise people if it gets that high? Will people be coming back over and over again to see the movie? Would kids be dragging their parents to see the movie? Because Grogu is such a predominant part of the movie. I think that's one of the smart things they did with the film is they understood that people aren't coming for the Mandalorian. So when you see the movie, they established the Mandalorian very strongly at the beginning, and it's pretty badass action sequence, almost like a James Bond action sequence to open the movie. But then it slides into a lot of the Grogu stuff, and Grogu even gets an extended sequence in the movie without the Mandalorian, which I think is a smart move as well, because they know that's what sells. Now, you can say, well, narratively, structure-wise, storyline-wise, like a better script, there's more that could have been explored. We did our spoiler review on the Geek Buddies yesterday. It's up on my channel, youtube.com/John Rocha Says. And we spoke about this. And Michael, one of my co-hosts there with me and Shannon, he's pointed out some interesting ways that the film could have gone deeper, exploring the father-son relationships a little bit more, exploring Zeb being a bit of someone who had experienced a Jedi being trained for years on those seasons of Rebels. How much would Zeb be commenting on what's going on between Mando and Grogu? Mando is not training Grogu to be a Jedi, but Grogu is in essence becoming a Jedi. So, like, what is the conversations? Could he have referenced what happened with Ezra and all this kind of stuff? And also using Admiral Coin and the revelation that they have in is Admiral Coin? I think the coin, whatever coin is. They could have used that to explore what's going on in the larger universe of Star Wars at the time in the way it's when it's chronologically occurring. But they didn't do any of that, right? They made it very much an adventure, a fun adventure. Is it a bunch of episodes strung together? Yes. I don't care what Favreau or anybody involved with The Mandalorian Grogu says. It's clearly based on a season of TV, and anyone telling you otherwise is lying through their teeth or trying to promote the movie so that people can go see it in theaters, right? And which is their job. So I'm not bashing anybody, but when you look at it, you can see clearly that's what's going on here. But there was a deeper movie that they could have made. That being said, the movie they made is fun for the most part. And I think I can say this, a majority of critics, if it's over 60%, did enjoy the movie. And definitely a lot of the fans, if it's at 89%, the audience score so far, Rotten Tomatoes, and that A- cinema score, which I think is what it got. That tells you that fans enjoyed the movie and had a good time with the movie. So it's like Michael, right? Like Michael, I think is an okay film in terms of if you're a fan of Michael Jackson, you're going to walk out humming the songs, dancing in the aisles, and having a good time with the movie. If you wanted something more, if you wanted it to explore, like I did, wanted it to not the allegations, just his actual life during the 70s and 80s, and as he's breaking away from his family, the drama that all caused. If you were looking for that, the film doesn't deliver that. It really doesn't give you that. It touches on the nose, it touches on the face and the possible whitening, it touches on the drug use that may be coming down the road. It certainly highlights the abuse at the beginning, but never really explores it in more depth. But it's to get to the music, it's to get to the songs, right? And so that's satisfying for Michael fans. And I think for Mandalorian and Grogu fans, it's not like Mandalorian and Grogu was a very deep Andor type series. It was fun. Yes, there were some subject matters that were explored. Yeah, we got some badass moments, especially at the end of season 2 with who coming through the doors. For those of you who may not have seen it yet. All of that, there are great moments in the Mandalorian and Grogu series, but it's not Andor. So anyone going to this movie thinking it's going to be this really deep exploration and have this profound thing to say, I think you will be disappointed because that isn't the point of view of The Mandalorian or the approach or the style of The Mandalorian and Grogu show. So it wouldn't be in the movie, right? But I take the criticisms and think that they're valid. And so, yes, a much more deeper, complex, interesting, badass, like really profound movie could have been made here as a commentary on fathers and sons and what have you. But they explored a lot of that in seasons 1 and 2. So, it's kind of an interesting place that Star Wars is in now with a movie like this. And if it's enough to make a profit and get us to Starfighter, I think people will be happy. And I wonder if Shadow Lord has brought back a little more faith in the brand as well, because people really enjoyed that animated series. So were they a little more primed to enjoy the Mandalorian and Grogu film? And I agree with the assessment here, which of course anybody who does box office analysis would say, let's see what the next few weeks are for this movie, because I think there's not much coming out other than maybe what do you got? Masters of the Universe that could really cross over with Mandalorian with Mandalorian, like get in the way of it making its money. Because I mean, right now, Masters of the Universe is on June 5th, so we're 10 days away from that, a little over 10 days away from that, and that is supposed to be right now a soft opening, but the first reactions have been really positive. I don't know if you guys covered it last week on the Kristian Harloff show on other episodes of it, and Scary Movie is coming out. So those two films I think are going to make a lot of money on June 5th. But so for the next 10 days, I mean, Mandalorian Grogu has a run. Yeah, Backrooms is going to make 50 million, but I don't think the Backrooms and Mandalorian and Grogu crowd are necessarily a crossover crowd. I mean, it doesn't mean that people aren't going to see both films, but I don't think it's a crossover crowd. And Pressure is coming out as well, which is a World War II film with Brendan Fraser, I think, playing Eisenhower or something like that in that movie. And I'm going to see it. There's a 2:00 screening today, so I may go see it today and do an out of theater reaction today as a Memorial Day video. But yeah, so I don't think either of those are going to affect Mandalorian and Grogu. So the next few days, I think it'll be interesting to see if there's legs to this, if the kids are getting their parents to take them to see this over and over and over again. Maybe even today, as it's a holiday, maybe parents are going back again after they took them on Saturday or Sunday to go see this movie, because parents love to take kids to movies so that they don't have to entertain them at the house for a while. So that could be very possible. So I think it's got a little bit of a run here over the next 2 weeks to see what it can do. But then after that, you've got Disclosure Day on June 12th, which may or may not be a flop. A lot of people kind of sensing it might be a flop. And then Toy Story 5. So to me, Toy Story 5 is where the run ends, really ends, is Toy Story 5, because that's really the full crossover audience there on that. So it could have a nice little run here and make some money, and Star Wars could, by the end, have some very strong legs for it, for sure. And will it, in the end? Oh, yeah, there. Thank you, PLD. Moana 2, over $1 billion, 1.059 billion. So it may not be a bad strategy in the end, although you may say, I wanted a better Star Wars movie, which, again, I totally think is a valid feeling to have and valid criticism when you look at the movie, because there was a potential for much more. In the end, if it ends up making money, breaking even, and then making a profit, if it gets to 400 or 500 by the end of its run, I don't think that's a negative in any way, shape, or form. And I think Star Wars should be happy that they made money, and it should be an indication that there are multiple audiences that you can satisfy in the Star Wars fandom. There is the Andor audience like me, or the Maul Shadow Lord audience like me, that loves this kind of darker approach to Star Wars because of some of the things that they bring up in the Star Wars universe. And then there are those who want to really enjoy Mandalorian and Grogu and have some fun, which I did as well. There are elements you can have different voices within Star Wars that can satisfy you. I think that's a really smart move. That's one of the frustrations I had at times working at Collider, is there was this belief, some people like, there should only be one reviewer, one critic, one voice of Collider. And it's like, that's nonsense. People have multiple points of views. People have multiple approaches to things. So there should be multiple. And I think they have that now. But at the time when I was there was this push from certain people who only wanted to be the voice and the face of I am the official reviewer of everything. And it's like, this is not the way it should go, because there are multiple points of views that can be possible. And it allows for some interesting, fun debate over opinions on these things, And so I think it's good to have different approaches. It's good to have different voices. It's good to have different projects or projects that satisfy certain members of your fan base. It doesn't have to be for everybody. And Marvel has proven that. Marvel has had some darker stuff. They've had some comedic stuff. They've had some family, father-son stuff, which was the really prevalent thing at the beginning of the Marvel stuff. And then they expanded out into the multiverse. And yeah, it didn't all work, of course, but like, that's how you do this, is you try to see how much of the fandom you can satisfy. You also try to hopefully expand the acceptance of the fandom of certain things within your franchise, and you just try stuff out and see what they enjoy, and you hope you do it as best you can so you can get a good idea of what really works and what doesn't work when you're expanding a franchise. So that's the kind of way that I look at this kind of stuff. So yeah. Let's see. Let's move on to another. Was this another story here? More numbers keep coming in. Okay, yeah, we read all that already. Oh yeah, let's move on to the Curry Barker, or let's move on to the obsession thing. So let's bring it back up here. Let me share it again. Where is it? Yeah, here it is. Where we left off here. At the international. Okay, so let's bring that up again. Yeah, the Mandalorian. Okay. Blah, 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 blah. Elsewhere, Focus Features and filmmaker Curry Barker's horror hit Obsession had a strong second weekend with an expected 19.9 million, an increase from its 17.2 million debut. Michael is eyeing a third place finish with 18.5 million, also over 3 days after crossing 300 million domestically on Friday. Globally, it's closing in on $800 million. I think it's going to be close if it crosses $1 billion. The fact that it's already getting into the ballpark with Bohemian Rhapsody after only 3 or 4 weeks is pretty amazing. Let me bring up the box office numbers and see, what do you, Mojo? Box office Mojo? Is that where Kristian goes? He always brings up the numbers with this stuff. Let me see here. Is it Box Office Mojo? Where's the box? Yeah. Okay. So yeah. So how long have these things been out? Okay. So yeah, let's look at that. Let me bring that up and take a look at this stuff. Well, let me finish reading this and then we'll go and look at that. All right. So further down is Mortal Kombat 2, which scored a solid 1.5 million on Friday, hit 68 million. That's such a shame. It's better than the last one, but it's only made 68 million in the US. It has all the makings of a modest hit for Warner Brothers. It says in the Mando and Grogu, the evil empire. Okay, blah, blah, blah. All right, so there you go. That's the things. So let's stop sharing that and let me share the box office numbers thing. Where did I put that? Here we go. So you look at this. This is the domestic box office. Mando at 20, Obsession 5.8, Michael 5. Not that far behind Michael, 5.69. So almost just 100,000, a little over 100,000 away from tying Obsession. And it's been out for 32 days. The fact that it's made $800 million in 32 days, and some of you have been saying that it hasn't opened yet in certain territories like China. I don't know if it's opened yet. Let's see, Michael opening in China. Let me see here. Okay, China box office. Michael claims the top. So it just so it did open in China. So yeah. So it's got where it's gotten to, which is pretty amazing. So yeah. So I think this is the fact that it's got to 800 million in 32 days is pretty amazing. I think Bohemian took forever to get to the 900 million that it got to, and it had to push because of the Oscars and all that kind of stuff as well. All right, let me. So what else are we looking with these numbers? Oh yeah, let me make them a little bit bigger. So yeah, Obsession, Devil Wears Prada. Where's the Devil Wears Prada at? They're at 608 million worldwide. Listen, I don't think that's a good movie, but there's the power of people wanting to go see a movie and spend time with characters that they love, right? Here is $600 million for the Devil Wears Prada 2. The first one is so much better than the second one, in my opinion. But this one has already blown that one, I think, out the water. But look how well it's done. And that tells you people want to go to the theater and escape with characters that they love and enjoy, or people that they love and enjoy, like Michael. Obsession, I think, is pretty amazing that it's doing what it's doing, considering the budget it's on. And the word of mouth is growing on that movie. That shows you that there's a very strong contingent of people who love the horror stuff. And even Sheep Detectives, which I might go see today, 85 million there worldwide with what it's done. And I don't know what is I think it's only like 20 million or something like that. Or 15 million. That was the Production budget. Oh no, 75 million budget. Jesus, 75 million? Well, I guess for the CGI. Because that cast is not a $75 million cast. No offense. Outside of Hugh Jackman, you ain't paying anyone else Hugh Jackman money rather in that cast. Maybe Emma Thompson. But yeah. Wow. Interesting. 85. So that's not so great. It's not really. I don't know why you would spend 85 million on a film about sheep detectives and kill off Hugh Jackman at the beginning, which is pretty clear in the trailer. So I'm not spoiling anything. All right, let's see. Do I want to? Right. So let me read the Michael stuff because I think this is really fascinating when you look at the Michael story. It is nearing. This is from Variety. This is yesterday. It's nearing another major box office. The musical biopic has generated 780 million globally. Will soon eclipse $80 million. Okay. Over the weekend, Michael added 28.5 million overseas. Another strong show. The crowd pleased distributor Universal International Landscape depends its gross. Yeah. So, it hasn't opened in Japan. My apologies. It hasn't opened in Japan. It is yet to open in Japan. I knew there was some territories it hadn't opened in. So Japan, Michael should eventually surpass 218's sensation Bohemian Rhapsody at which grossed 911 million worldwide to stand as the highest grossing musical biopic of all time. I still think the Bohemian Rhapsody number is such an anomaly. I did not know that there were that many Queen fans all over the world that wanted to go see this movie. And that movie is also further proof that just because you're in a movie as the lead that makes $900 million doesn't mean your box office gold, because Rami Malek has come nowhere near that with any other project that he's been involved in or that he's led. So, yeah, I mean, other the James Bond, but that's James Bond. That's not really Rami Malek. So it's just an interesting thing when you look at how you assess the stardom of an actor, the box office success of an actor, their ability to get people to come to a movie. With that all being said there. Let's see. Yeah, so it's pretty impressive for Michael that it's going to get back close. And then Devil Wears Prada, and now in its fourth weekend, the set film collected 21 million. It's been big in North America with nearly $200 million to date, but it's been especially popular at the international box office with 408 million, which is pretty impressive, I would say. And when we go back to Mandalorian and Grogu, it opened at 64 million from 51 territories. The top markets were the UK with 7.1, Germany 6.5, China with 5.3, Japan with 4.9. It has been a bigger draw in North America, obviously, with 82 million over the weekend, estimated 102 million through Memorial Day. But I mean, don't be surprised if it blows past the 102 million on Memorial Day, especially if word of mouth of this movie is so strong with the audience score, with the cinema score. It could go even higher today. More people might go. Walk-up money might be there for them to make even more. That brings the global total to 145 million over 3 days and 165 million over the 4-day frame. And I think 165 million over 4 days for a film based on a streaming TV show with a third season that lost viewers, I think that's a pretty good situation to be in for Star Wars. Obviously, you want it to be 250, 300, obviously. But this isn't an installment. This isn't even a heritage character like Solo. This is relatively two new characters coming off a streaming TV show. And no matter how big Mando and Grogu was, it's still a streaming TV show. It is not a main primetime TV show and what have you. So you have to adjust your expectations. And so, I mean, that's pretty good. I mean, Solo, a Star Wars story, that was, a lot of people, I think that was a disaster for sure. But like, this is the possibility of becoming a success overall for Disney. So we will see. Okay, so let me know what you guys think. What do you think about this box office for the Mandalorian and Grogu? Are you happy about it? Do you think it makes sense? Good for the brand? Do you think it's bad for the brand? What are your thoughts on the movie? Let us know down in the comment section below. And what's your assessment of the box office? And be fair. Put it in perspective. Put it in context. You can still think I'm wrong in how I'm looking at it, but prove your point. Don't just use figures from previous Star Wars films. That's the easy way out. It's really prove your point when you're looking at markers here, considering how much it was made for 160, considering the context of where it's coming out right now, which Star Wars has a lot of damage on it, and people are attacking it left and right all the time. And the fact that the last few projects other than Shadow Lord haven't been that strong. What is your assessment of it? And do you think it should have been in the theaters? I see a lot of people, including my Geek Buddies co-host Michael Vogel, complaining that it should not have been in the theaters or didn't need to be in the theaters. And Shannon said the same thing. Could have easily watched it at home. And is this an indication? I think if people are going in higher numbers, is this an indication that they are rejecting that idea that I could just wait for it and watch it at home, which a lot of people default to when it comes to this kind of stuff. So I want to hear what you guys think down in the comment section below. Please remember to keep sending in your super chats. That we've got 18 so far. Would love to get more coming through. Would love to get some higher sums coming through as well, so we can get to a big number here on a Monday. I am a former military man working on Memorial Day, so would love for you all to send in some support here as we go along. And a big shout out to everybody who is maybe watching us, who served in the military or is serving in the military, or listening to us, and anyone who is, has family members who served in the military. Big shout out to them. Thank you for your service. I'm always I'm always self-conscious and humbled when people say that to me, because it's like, I was proud to serve my country. And I think most of us who've ever served our country are proud to serve our country because we love our country. We may have issues with our country. We may comment about some of the things in the history of our country or the government currently in charge, but like, we still love our country. And part of loving your country is wanting your country to do better, offering your opinion on how it can do better, and trying to push back on those who want to send it down the wrong road. And so, however your political opinion, wherever you land, that's how you express sometimes your policy. And I think it's a good day to remember those who sacrificed their lives so that we can even have these debates. We can even have these conversations. We can even go back and forth, whether you consider it right now one of the most toxic times ever. The fact that we have the freedom of speech, and we do have freedom of speech to say what we want to say and go back and forth with each other, I think that's something to be celebrated. And as we fear at times that it might be disappearing, it's something to cherish and savor and fight for with every fiber of your being. And this should apply to everybody, no matter what side political spectrum you're on. All voices should be allowed to speak their minds and speak their piece. Any voices trying to get shut down, or trying to get other voices shut down, that is not American. That is not American, and you may not want that person to speak. You may not want that person to say the things that they're saying, but everyone's got a right to speak their speech. And then people have a right to determine whether they want to keep listening to that person or not, so just want to make that really clear. And I just am proud to live in a country where that's allowed, and that's celebrated, and that's championed, and that's fought for overall. I do say that on the heels of Stephen Colbert being pushed out, and I think that's one of the worst things that you can do, to shut out voices that are speaking in protest. I think it's the stupidest thing you can do, because it just betrays a insecurity, a lack of strength, and it's bad. And it's not a good thing. Even people on the right have pushed back on this idea of trying to silence dissenting voices in the media. That's freedom of speech. If you're trying to shut people up, you're violating freedom of speech, and that should not be allowed. So just saying, just putting that out there for everybody. It should be universal. I agree. I'm gonna put this up. Oshi, RIP to my dad, served in Korean War, 1951. Miss you, Dad. Absolutely. To anyone who has lost family members in service of our country, I send all my love. We send all our love, thoughts, and prayers as you think about their sacrifice today. And there's so many amazing stories of people who served our country, and people who stood on the front lines, people who made the ultimate sacrifice to make sure we can function as a society and we can exist as we exist now in this country. The ability to protest, the ability to fight back, the ability to vote in who you want to vote in. All of that is part of expressing ourselves, which is an essential part of the existence of this country. So just putting that out there. And much love to everybody who has lost somebody and is celebrating them. And any of you who are serving now, much love to you all as well. And especially if you're serving in the theater of war, is what's going on in Iran and in other places. So mad love to all of you. All right, let's see where else we can go today. We've done a lot of box office talk. What is this? Idris Elba. Let's I guess we had some James Bond news to talk about here with Idris Elba. Let's bring that up here. He's got some comments about James Bond. And as I said, please keep sending in your Streamlabs and Super Chats as we go along today. Looking forward to reading what you guys want to talk about. Idris Elba says, I was never in the James Bond race. He says that despite all the speculation over the years, he was never really in contention to play James Bond. Of course, Idris Elba is about to appear in Masters of the Universe in a few days. Amazon MGM Studios announced earlier that, quote, the search for the next James Bond is underway, with the casting process expected to take place this summer. The Golden Globe winning The Wire and upcoming Masters of the Universe star has long been one of the most common names suggested as an ideal James Bond candidate for much of the past decade or so. That's for sure. A lot of people really wanted him to play James Bond. But this week, while out promoting the Masters of the Universe, he tells People magazine he's not in the running. My name's not getting thrown out. No way. They're going younger, and I wish them all the luck in the world. I can't wait. It's going to be amazing. I'm honestly not in the race ever. I wasn't in the race in the first place. Casting director Nina Gold is working with director Denis Villeneuve and producers Amy Pascal and David Heyman on the search for who will be next play Bond, and whoever is cast, quote, must ooze sex appeal. Whoever is cast is expected to appear in the role for at least 3 films. Okay, so not going to be a one-off. We don't know if Denis is going to stick around for the whole run, but looks like 3 films is what they're saying. So, listen, I think Idris is saying the right things. I have to believe he was in the running in some shape or form at some point. Whether he was told he was in the running is a whole nother ballgame, but I have to believe he was in the running at some point in the process. And I think it would have been fun to see him play James Bond, but I think he's right. Like, they're not going to go with an old James Bond right now. And I mean old because old by Hollywood standards. They're not going to do that. They want a young guy that they can do multiple films with. And to be honest with you, Idris has not been a box office draw. And look, I know Daniel Craig wasn't a box office draw. Sean Connery at the time, Roger Moore, blah, blah, blah. But, we're at a different time now. And I think they're going to find somebody who's up and coming. They're going to strap the James Bond brand on him. And it's going to be someone who's a little bit of an unknown, right? Or an up and comer. So you as an audience can put your own expectations or your own feelings about you, a bit more open-minded. Whereas if you cast Idris Elba, there's expectations, there's criticism, there's, a black Bond, there's all of that, which sadly we would have to deal with. And so this would be an element of it. I mean, look what happened to Lashana Lynch. People went crazy that she was going to be possibly the new 007, all those videos and articles and all that shit. And so, you ask yourself, well, would it have been great? I think 10 years ago, there was when people didn't know him quite as much, 10, 15 years ago, I think it would have been fascinating to see Luther, which is one of the greatest shows ever, the guy from Luther playing James Bond. That would have been fascinating, especially coming off The Wire and Luther. There was a lot more electricity around Idris. So I think that would have been exciting to see what he would have done with the James Bond, especially with the right director who understood how to use him and hopefully telling a damn good story. It would have been great. And I do think Idris is one of those guys that could be cast as a black James Bond, and most people, I think, wouldn't have an issue with it and wouldn't write articles and do all those videos and all that kind of stuff. I think people would be excited by it. But we'll see who they get. There's a lot. Tom Francis was a name that was floated last weekend, but a lot of people, including Jeff on the hot mic, felt like, well, is that really a legitimate person who they're considering, or was this Tom Francis's publicist leaking this so to build up the name recognition of Tom Francis down the road for other projects? Who's to say? Jacob Elordi. A lot of people have been talking about Jacob Elordi. I rewatched about 45 minutes of Priscilla the other night, the Priscilla Presley movie from a couple of years ago with Kaylee Spaney as Priscilla and Jacob Elordi as Elvis. He's such a damn good actor, guys. I loved him in Frankenstein. I don't watch Euphoria, so I don't know how good he is in that. But I know people like, well, he's too tall and he's too striking, and how could he be a secret agent if you could totally see him coming a mile away because he's so tall? I understand all of that, but this is fantasy land, okay? This is fantasy land. It's not a real person in a real situation, so you can make those kinds of excuses and allowances. Like people who love Face Off, John Travolta is a foot taller than Nicolas Cage or vice versa, and yet we were able to forgive it, and they look nothing like each other. So it's just that kind of thing where you're like, the audience can make the work, can do the work for you, have the suspension of disbelief, but you've got to get him there. And so I think that's where the Jacob Elordi situation, because he's such a damn good actor, I think people would create more space to see what he could do with the role and give him more leeway to see. And if you get the right director like Denis, he'll understand how to make that work and kind of not obscure his height, but kind of lessen the effect of his height on James Bond. So I think that could be interesting down the road if they were to go that route. So, but there's a lot of names that have been thrown around, a lot of names that have been kicked around. So we will see what it ends up being. And I think they've absolutely had conversations or had like put feelers out to certain agents, certain actors. I know Jeff said that he thought it was real interesting that Callum Turner has pulled out of a couple of projects recently. And I know Callum Turner is another name that a lot of people have been putting out there for James Bond. Callum haven't done Fantastic Beasts. He wasn't the lead, but he was, what's-his-face, Eddie Redmayne's brother in the film. And he's done some other projects as well. People like him as an actor, a good, strong, young British actor. I don't see him in the role because I've never thought that Callum Turner, quote, oozed sex appeal. But I'm not a woman, so maybe he does ooze sex appeal to a lot of ladies, and I just don't see that. So I will create space for that for sure. But yeah, there's not a lot of people, but I think Jacob Elordi does. I think Elordi is a sexy dude. I think a lot of women have a thing for him because he was in Wuthering Heights, right? So he would be, I mean, like he is so powerful in Wuthering Heights. That would be amazing, you know? Rocha for Bond. No. I'm too old to be a Bond villain, for God's sake. Maybe 10 years ago. Maybe at the height of the Outlaws run in 2016, I could have been a great Bond villain. That would have been fun. But we'll see, man. But we'll see. I wonder how that's all going to go down when you look at this. Do you guys have any suggestions? Like, who do you guys think could play James Bond? Someone says Elordi is American. No, Elordi's Australian. He's not American. He's Australian. So that's not as much of a leap. So I think that could work, to be honest with you. So I think people would be a little more, I think the English would be a little more open to an Australian doing it versus an American doing it, you know. And he's got Dog Stars coming up. So we'll see if that trailer did not look good. So we'll see. And he is 6'5". Jacob Elordi, 6'5", but he's 28. So, you know, he's young. They want young. They want sex appeal. I think he's got it. I would go in that direction over Callum Turner, in my personal opinion. That would be interesting. Yeah, Aaron Taylor Johnson is a name that a lot of people have tossed out for the last year or two, or maybe even longer, to play James Bond. And certainly, I think Nina Gold has cast some of Aaron Taylor Johnson's movies in the past. I think she cast Nowhere Boy, so she has experience with him. So it's very possible that it could be Aaron Taylor Johnson. And it could be that we've gone all the way back around to land where we started, which is Aaron Taylor Johnson. So we will see as that goes down. So yeah, it's all a good point. George Lazenby was an Aussie. Of course, he only did a one-off on Her Majesty's Secret Service. So this is supposed to be 3 of them. So we'll see. But yes, I think it's much easier for an Australian to jump in and do a British than a British to do, than an American to do Bond. I think the Brits would accept that a little bit more, you know, so to speak. All right, let's see what else have we got. Keep sending in your super chats, rather, y'all. We really appreciate it. I'm just looking through some of these stories here for us to talk about. Let's see, because there's not much going on over the weekend, because usually holiday weekend, not much happens. So let me check World of Real and see what else we got going. Or I might start answering some questions early. I don't know. We're at 45 minutes anyway. Oh, yeah. I love boosters. Man, not doing so well. Not doing so well box office wise, I think. So I think it's what did it do? Like 3.5, something like that. It wasn't that strong. So we'll see what happens with that. All right, let's look at this tracking story here from World of Real for Supergirl. That's in our wheelhouse here. Let's see. Let's bring that up. Where is it? Here we go. Here's the tracking for Supergirl. Let's make that a little bit bigger. Man, I wish we could make the screen even bigger for these stories, but I guess I have to zoom in. All right, here we go. Supergirl is tracking between the Marvels and Black Adam as DC Studios faces a major box office test. DC Studios has a major summer movie on the horizon with Supergirl. arriving a year after Superman pulled in 624 million worldwide. And some people tell you it made a profit, some people tell you it didn't make a profit, including a $125 million domestic opening, becoming 2025's biggest superhero movie and giving James Gunn and Peter Safran much needed a breathing room. The question now is whether Supergirl can continue that momentum. However, forecasts from Box Office Theory currently predict a domestic debut between $47 and $65 million, putting it somewhere between the Marvel's territory and Black Adam, which opened at $67 million domestically. Well, not $67 domestically. Supergirl, which opens June 26th, is squeezed between several major family blockbusters as well, including Toy Story 5, Minions and Monsters, and Disney's live-action Moana. However, the main issue surrounding the film is that the marketing campaign simply hasn't generated much excitement. Yeah, that softer buzz has fueled concerns that the movie could either emerge as a modest performer or become one of the summer's bigger disappointments. Notice how Superman is heavily featured in recent promotional material for Supergirl, yes. Despite the character reportedly only having a cameo role in the film, that's Warner Brothers trying to play it safe. Then there are the internal issues that have reportedly plagued the production. Supergirl has undergone at least 10 test screenings, and an usually high number for a modern studio blockbuster, with DC Studios reportedly experimenting with 3 different endings, multiple edits, and extended appearances from Superman. Furthermore, reactions to the film have been mixed, with Millie Alcock consistently earning praise for performance, while criticism is focused on action scenes and Matthias Schoenaert's villain, Krem. Supergirl has also cycled through 3 composers, including Ramin Djawadi, Tom Hochberg, and Claudia Sarne. Tonally, the movie is described as darker and more character-driven than a typical superhero film with a, quote, space western vibe and music choices reminiscent of Guardians of the Galaxy. While Jason Momoa's brief turn as Lobo has reportedly tested well with audiences, listen, this film is tested over 10 times, so I imagine he's not very good, or Warner Bros. Is heavily working it to find the perfect version. That's Jordan Rumi saying that. Or maybe the truth lies somewhere in the middle. It's very hard to tell because the edit reportedly keeps changing from screening to screening. Ticket sales are expected to be tomorrow, so we should soon get a clear picture of whether Supergirl will hurt DC Studios' momentum or help carry it into next year's Superman Man of Tomorrow. So yeah, I mean that's not the greatest news. If I was Warner Brothers looking at it as that's the opening number, that's a shame, you know. And so because I've liked everything we've gotten trailer wise, I liked the footage I saw at CinemaCon for the most part. I didn't think it was 100% great, but I certainly enjoyed it. But of course, I wasn't seeing it in the context of the movie. So maybe in the context of the movie, that footage hits a little bit harder when you see it. So I'm curious. I'm very curious to see what the end result is going to be box office wise for this movie. And will it overperform? Because Mandalorian and Grogu, I think one of the smartest things they did marketing wise, obviously they had Grogu, which everybody kind of universally loves. But I think the smart thing they did with Mandalorian and Grogu to release like the first 18 minutes of footage to let people get excited about it at CinemaCon, and there were all kinds of people who were commenting about how much they enjoyed the first 18 minutes. And then they had that May the 4th day where they put out 25 minutes of footage, and a lot of influencers went there. And I don't think influencers have as much of an effect as influencers think they have. Or studios or companies that use influencers, I don't think they're as effective as people think they are. They're all making a lot of money, but I don't think they necessarily move the needle as strongly for movies as people think they do. But the word of mouth on coming out of those screenings was positive. So maybe that's what helped Mando Grogu, or at least a little bit, get past the projections, because it didn't blow the projections out of the water. It only blew it. It only outdid them by a few million, you know? And so the question becomes, when you look at Supergirl, is Warner Brothers looking at what Disney did for Mando and saying, well, maybe we should do this. Maybe we should release the first 10, 15 minutes, or release a 15-minute kind of compilation to get people excited for the movie. I wonder if that's a way to do it. But if it's a darker Western, if it's a more kind of character-driven piece, that's a tough thing to sell ahead of time, because you want to see everything in context. So can you edit 10 to 15 minutes of the movie that would get people excited for them, 12 to 15, I guess, that would get people excited for the movie, that would still be a great um, window into the movie, but also get people excited for it. So it honors what the movie is about while also getting people excited. Because the last thing you want to do is edit 12 to 15 minutes, 12 to 15 minutes of a footage of a film, and people go in the theater and it's not the 12 to 15 minutes. It's not in the style of the 12 to 15 minutes you put out there. That would be a huge mistake, because then there'd be a lot of people complaining about the switch, the bait and switch. So we'll see. But yeah, those numbers don't look good. Those numbers do not look good, and it's a shame to see that. But I mean, it's kind of predictable. Supergirl is not. I mean, as well known as she may be within the comic books bubble, and yes, we saw Supergirl in the CW. We saw Supergirl in the 1980s with Helen Slater, but like, she's not as big as Superman. She's not one of these characters that people like running out to go see. And this would be her first theatrical film since that Helen Slater movie. So, I think this was expected, but I think these numbers need to go up, and we'll see once the first screenings start to happen. And I don't mean the first wave where people are seeing it because they get to go to the junket and they're going to be overly positive. I think with screenings like the ones I go to, which are later after the initial screenings, you're going to start to see people's thoughts. And I wonder if they screen it, because Mandalorian and Grogu and Masters of the Universe did not screen and are not screening here in San Diego. And so I'll be curious to see what the results of that situation is with Supergirl. Are we going to get a screening for Supergirl here in San Diego? Or are all these studios starting to look at the smaller cities and saying like, well, I don't think we should screen some of the movies that we fear could get negative buzz in these smaller areas. And to be fair, some of these smaller cities might be more predisposed to not like something, because that is kind of from Hollywood. That seems to be the sentiment that can exist in certain cities. So you wonder if that's an element of it as well. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But yeah, it does not look good, for God's sakes. Let's see here. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So he's suggesting. All right. Let's bring that over. All right. Let's talk about another thing here. So yeah, and let me know what you think about the box office and the way Supergirl's box office is tracking right now. Do you think this is a positive or a negative? I think we all think it's a bit of a negative, but like, do you think the word of mouth, do you think people's initial reviews, do you think that will get people into the theater? Do you think that this film has a real shot at being a surprise? And listen, having a bad villain in a movie doesn't necessarily mean a movie's not going to do well. There is no good villain in Mando and Grogu. The Hutts, the CGI is such an issue, and they're not really that big in the movie. And I don't think Admiral Coin, or whatever his name is, he was kind of a flaccid villain in Mando and Grogu. So it doesn't mean that your film will necessarily not do well. So this Krem situation may be a bit overblown. It's because Messiah Shonen is a damn good actor. So we'll see, though, when more people get to see this movie, what they have to say, for God's sakes. By the way, I need to get into Warner Brothers somehow and get into these screenings. So I gotta shake the tree a little bit and see if I can get into some of these early screenings for these movies, because it's a bit frustrating to be on the outside of it. I know that's first world problems, but I would like to be able to see these a little bit early so I can give you my honest assessment, because I don't, you know me, I don't pull any punches. I tell you the truth of what I think legitimately. So we'll see down the road. All right, let's get to one more story here. Keep sending in your Streamlabs. This one has to, your Super Chats. Keep sending in your Super Chats. This one has to do with Spider-Man 2. Let's bring that up. Thanks, PLD, for reminding me. There you go. Thank you. All right, let's get how big is this one? Is this big enough? Oh, it's 200. All right, let's go back down. Spider-Man 2 star Alfred Molina says he signed a 3-picture deal, breaks silence on possible MCU return. Hey now. Alfred Molina is open up potentially. Let's skip that little promo. Okay, many actors could have taken on the role of Dr. Otto Octavius in 2004 Spider-Man 2, but filmmaker Sam Raimi made the best choice possible with Alfred Molina. That is the truth. AKA my dad. The actor made, not really, but like he could play my dad in a film. The actor made Dr. Octopus his own, and his take on the villain is still considered one of the best comic book supervillains to have graced the big screen. While his story reached a definitive end in Spider-Man 2's closing moments, when Otto regained his senses and sacrificed himself to save Peter Parker in New York, which is a great moment in that movie, he returned in 2021's Spider-Man No Way Home. Fuck me, was that 5 years ago? What? Damn.
Surprise, motherfucker.
Yeah, basically, yes. Pulled into Earth 616 moments before his demise, Doc Ock initially clashed with Tom Holland's web-slinger. Fortunately, his mind was cured, and Otto later helped the Spider-Man turn the tide against Green Goblin, Electro, Sandman, and Lizard on the Statue of Liberty. Variety recently spoke with Molina and was asked whether the door is open to him reprising his most iconic role in a future Spider-Man movie. He said, "Who knows? When I did Spider-Man 2 for Sam Raimi back in 2004, I remember at the time they had me on a 3-movie option. The contract said that should they choose to renew that option, they had the right to bring me back. When I shot the scene where Octavius dies and sacrifices himself, I said to the producers, well, I guess my option is null and void. But Avi Arad, who was running Marvel at the time, said, well, no one really dies in this universe. So I thought, okay. But I didn't think it would be 17 years before I did it again. Then when they asked me to come back, I remember saying, Amy Pascal, I've got crow's feet. I've got a double chin. I'm not a youngster anymore. And the director, John Watts, said, don't worry, we can fix all of that with technology. Oh, I need that technology. So I jumped in, and No Way Home was great fun. Now, if it comes up, I don't know what the future holds. I think we might have to just leave Doc Ock in a nice prominent place in the Rogues Gallery of Villains. But honestly, if they came knocking on my door and said, we'd love you to do it again, I would do it again, no doubt. I doubt if it'll happen, though. Asked if he's excited about Spider-Man New Day, Molina replied, yeah, I love those movies. I honestly don't know too much about the new one. I'm not even sure who the villain is. In fairness, neither are we. The Scorpion, Tombstone, I thought to them. I was like, well, we don't anticipate seeing any of Spider-Man No Way Home's sinister villains in the immediate future. Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield are expected to reteam with Holland in the not-too-distant future. They could happen as soon as next December's Avengers Secret War. So, I mean, it's not quite what the headline says. It says he signed a 3-picture deal, breaks silence on possible MCU return. That's kind of a red herring to get you to click, or bait to get you to click on this. But he's essentially saying he would do it if they asked him to do it, but no one's really asked him to do it. And he had a 3-picture deal, which implies he's still got one more picture to do. But of course, that was under the Fox regime. Did Marvel assume those contracts when Disney bought Fox? I don't know. So I would love to see Doc Ock again. I think Molina is one of the great standout highlights of those Spider-Man movies. I always have a warm spot in my heart for Alfred Molina. He's such a great actor. And I don't know. I just have this smile on my face whenever I see him in anything. And I think it'd be great to bring him back because he was so great as Doc Ock. And I cry every time I watch No Way Home when they're on that platform near the end and they're having the big fight. And he says to him, Peter, how are you, my boy? And I even saying the line right now, I'm going to start crying. Like, there's just something really powerful about how he brings that character to life. And if you've ever had a mentor who kind of guided you through life who's passed on, like that interaction just kind of rattles you to your core, man. I think it's a beautiful, because you can see the love that Tobey has for him too as an actor and their connection. It's so powerful. So if you were to bring him back to have some like heroic moment in Secret Wars or what have you with Tobey, I think that would be amazing. Because we've never seen he helped them at the end of No Way Home, but to see Peter, to see Spider-Man and Doc Ock, Peter and Otto working together to fight against something in a sequence in Secret Wars would be amazing. I think would be utterly amazing. So I would love to see that on so many levels. So yeah, we will see. All right. Thanks for reminding me of that story, PLD. Appreciate that. I think that's all the stories that we had for today. So let's get into the questions. We have 33 questions. Thank you all so much. Appreciate you all sending in stuff. Please keep sending it in. We can be here for another hour, or if we get through all the questions before the hour, I'll have to bid adieu. But I would love to spend the next hour answering questions. So please send in your questions through the super chats. Thanks to the 33 who've already been sent in. Ron H7474 says, hey, man, I was at a sports bar watching the game between the Canadians, the Habs, and the Hurricanes. An impossibly gorgeous woman giving talk to me vibes seemed to appear right next to me. Just kidding. Kristian Harloff, nothing but love for you. All of that story, gangster group, baby. Now to see what a collaboration with Orange Crush will yield. I guess he expected Kristian to be on the show today. So, Kristian, if you're watching later or whatever, answer this man in the comment section for sure. Ron says, I needed a cool intro, so I gave her a soft stare and said, hey, how you enjoying the game? She quickly walked away. Damn you, Kristian Harloff. Just damn you. There you go, Ron. Well, listen, I don't know if you should be taking advice from Kristian Harloff on how to approach women. I've never seen him approach a woman to ask them out. But then again, he clearly did something right because Sadie is, incredibly gorgeous. So shout out to maybe Kristian's got the right advice. But then again, I mean, the times now when Kristian and I were younger, flirting or trying to get dates or whatever, it's a different time now. Women are completely different than they were back then. Much more independent, much more like you better bring it or don't waste my time. There's a much more energy to that, and I know that there's this epidemic of young men are frustrated, they should just give me the sex. No, son, you got to work for everything in life. It's funny how the same people will tell you got to pull yourself up by your bootstraps don't want to pull themselves up by their bootstraps when it comes to figuring out women and figuring out the right ways to approach a woman, to date a woman. They want it all just to be handed to them. And listen, don't be crying about people getting handouts. If you're trying to get a handout from a woman, for God's sakes, earn your shit. Do your research. Read the books. Watch some of the shows. They'll give you an insight into how women think nowadays and adjust your approach accordingly. There's nothing wrong with that. That's smart business. What's wrong with you? I see a lot of these young men who are just complaining and whining about women. Step the fuck up. Step up, for God's sakes. Learn the game and get in the game and figure out how to do it and get in the game. That's how you do things in life. Some of you have been.
I love Snatch.
There you go. That's right. Some of you have been coddled a little too much, and you need to get out in the game and fight, for God's sakes. Carlton says, London calling. What's up, Carlton? Love Devil Wears Prada, part 1 on the Cinephiles. Thank you. Loved your contrasting takes on Miranda's genius versus tyranny. Can't wait for part 2. Yeah, Steve and I, that's one of my podcasts that I do every week. It is called The Cinephiles. Steve Morris, who is a director in Los Angeles, writer and producer as well. We break down one film every week, and sometimes over multiple parts, or most of the time over multiple parts. We're currently tackling Devil Wears Prada. We just did 2 parts of Whiplash. And Steve and I are debating. We have 2 different takes on Miranda's style of management and the context of how a woman in a position like that is deals with her power. So it's fun. It's fun conversation. And we average about 200 to 1,000 downloads, a week with that show. And so, it's a good show. I'm proud of it. It does well. And so if you guys haven't listened to it, I would highly encourage you all to do so. And because we break down great films. We've been doing it for 10 years. And I think there's a lot of films that you all would enjoy hearing us talk about. Ron says, I wonder how many questions I'll have today. Maybe I'll have 21, 21 questions. Ha, ha, ha. There you go. Yes,
hey, I got a 21 questions. 21 questions for you.
I have no idea what that's a reference to, but shout out to Kalinowski doing his thing. GoPal says, early support. Thank you, GoPal. Tom Hanks. Hey, Tom Hanks in the chat. Thank you, Tom Hanks. Obsession and Hokum are both incredible. I hope to find out. Jeff talked me out of Hokum. Jeff Snyder. He said that Hokum was not that good. So, I don't know. We'll see. By the way, there's 450 of you joining us right now. Thank you so much. Appreciate y'all hanging out with me on a Memorial Day. Happy Memorial Day to everybody. I hope you're honoring the people who served our military. Thank you to everyone who's been thanking me for my service in the chat. It's very kind of you all, but it's about the people who have given the ultimate sacrifice for our country to keep us where we're at and keep us in existence and fight back against those who would try to take us out of existence. So much love to the military and everybody who's currently serving or served and who gave the ultimate sacrifice. To anybody who is new coming in the last few minutes, just want to send that out from all of us here on the Kristian Harloff channel and on my channel, of course. the John Rocha channel, which if you want to subscribe, you can go to youtube.com/John Rocha Says. Would love for you all to subscribe to my channel. Big shows happening there. The Hot Mic is happening there. The Geek Buddies, we just did our spoiler review of Mando and Grogu that is up on the channel now. Spill the Tequila. I'm sure Winston and I will have another fun show tomorrow night. At some point, the Jedi Way with Frank and Kevin and I will be discussing some stuff early, hopefully sometime this week. And of course, my reactions and reviews. And I just announced the other day that I will be launching the Rocha Show. The Rocha Show. Do I have a thing for that? I'm sure PLD deleted it, but I like to put up something. I thought I had a picture for that, but maybe I don't. Oh, well. But yeah, it is going to be a show where I just kind of basically do my thing and talk about whatever I want to talk about. I tried something similar to that with The Truth, but it didn't quite capture what I wanted. And I think here's the logo for it. It's pretty simple. There you go. Pretty big font, pretty simple stuff. It is going to be the Rocha Show. Basically me talking my shit about what's going on in the world and what's going on in life. So just want to let you all know that is happening. Look for look for the first episode coming in June. We're still working out. Hey, where's my thing? We're still working out the video. We're still working out. Thank you, PLD. We're working out all that stuff. So yeah, so just look for that coming soon. But yeah, subscribe to my channel, youtube.com/John Rocha Says. Hey, Mr. CJ. Hey, Mr. CJ. Thanks, Rocha, for your service and holding down the fort. Thank you, sir. Appreciate you, madly. Appreciate you. Wiley says, thank you for your service, Rocha. Thank you, Wiley. Watch Defending Your Life for the first time this week. Great film from from Albert Brooks. Really impactful movie. Loved it. I know it is one of your favorites as well. It is. I love that movie. If you haven't seen Defending Your Life, Albert Brooks movie with Meryl Streep. Basically, he's a guy who kind of was a bit of a dick in life, is accidentally killed through a car crash, and is sent to the afterlife, purgatory, to essentially lobby for his life to be accepted into heaven. And Meryl Streep is someone who died but lived a beautiful life, and so she's just having fun in purgatory, waiting to be accepted into heaven, but she's totally going to go through. Albert Brooks's character has a much harder time. So it's about his journey and him confronting some of his issues in life, his bitterness, his frustration, his anger, and how the things that he experienced as a kid affected who he is as an adult, and how he's got to come to terms with those things in order to finally be accepted in heaven. So the symbolism of that movie is there because it's like accepting yourself, and kind of forgiving yourself. So there's a lot that goes on. It's a very funny movie, and the way they do the afterlife, I think, is hilarious. So for any of you who haven't seen it, it's really, really good. 9 days. Kaliloki says, thank you for doing the show today. I'm a veteran dealing with anxiety, and shows like this help. Hey, brother. Sending you love, man. Sending you a lot of love. I know what anxiety feels like. This is something that came on in my life over the last few years that I deal with. A few weeks ago, I had a pretty bad anxiety attack on my own in the car. And I had to kind of navigate that and talk myself through it. So I totally understand, my friend. Thank you for your service. Thank you for being a veteran and serving our country. And please, talk yourself through those moments. Make sure you have the tools available for yourself within reach for those moments when they come for you, whether it's on your phone or around your room or in your house, wherever it is you may live. Like, it's really important to have the tools available to you for those when those anxiety moments hit, because you got to navigate them. Let me tell you something. I say this on my show all the time. For anybody who's going through tough times right now, and certainly if you have anxiety, panic attacks, PTSD, what have you, that's dealing from your service, like, you are undefeated dealing with the hard times. If you're still here, you're undefeated. And so I want to make that, like, it was such a powerful thing I read months ago, and it stayed with me, and I want to pass that on to any people who've never heard it. You are undefeated dealing with your hard times because you're still here. And that matters. That means you can do it. That means you can get through it again, And so I just want to send love to everybody or anybody who's dealing with anxiety issues. And thank you for your service, Kaliloki. Appreciate you, bro. Fuzzy Bubbles says, are you going to see Pressure? Yeah, I think it looks like a good film. Christian's Yanks are still behind my Rays. Well, they're my Yanks too, bro. And since I'm older than Christian, they were my Yanks before they were Christian's Yanks. But yes, I agree with you, bro. They are behind my your Rays. The Rays are killing it, and we are just a bit of a mess. Although Cole's back now, so we'll see how that affects the team. But we're clearly not built well overall. We'll see. And I am supposed to go see Pressure today. There's a 2 p.m. screening. As long as there's not a lot of people in the theater, I will go. But if it starts to fill up, I will probably skip the screening and wait for a Thursday screening happening in the next couple of days or 3 days for that. But yes, I will go see it, Fuzzy. Ron says, Grogu learned some new words. Fuck you, haters. There you go. Yes, absolutely, Ron. Mike Joy says, Mando Grogu is definitely anti-woke. I don't know how it's anti-woke. I guess. I don't know. The Grogu solo portion made me want to fall asleep. See, Mike, your tastes are weird, bro. That was one of the best sequences in the movie. So I don't know how you could have an issue with that sequence, seeing a young character step out on his own and take care of himself. So, all right. Everyone's got their, but everyone's got, everyone's entitled to their opinions on things. Johnny Patrizia, after 22 years, Arsenal finally lifted the Premier League trophy. It was wonderful to see. Best of luck next year, John. Looking forward to the banter. Yeah. Look, shout out to Arsenal for getting the job done. They got the job done. It was kind of hairy at the end there, but they got the job done. Man City blowing it over the last 2 games. I think the Pep news affected them and affected their play on the field, which is so weird because the same thing happened with Jurgen a couple of years ago. I don't understand how players wouldn't want to play harder for a manager who's leaving, but it seems to happen that a lot of players get caught up in the emotion of losing the manager and don't play as hard on the field. So it's a weird thing with football. So, but yes, shout out to Arsenal. Congratulations. Maybe your fans can stop being insufferable now and claiming there's a whole conspiracy, because you're the only team in the history of the Premier League to ever go an entire season without 1 red card and without surrendering 1 penalty, which is unheard of. So make of that what you will. When you start calling us Liverpool, should we call you Varsenal? I wonder. Maddie B says, good afternoon, Rocha. What's up, Maddie B? Thank you and appreciate your service. Thank you. What was your time in the service like? What branch? How long? Job? Did you do any tours overseas? Yeah, I was in for 8 years in the Army. 8 years in the Army. My time in the service was great. I met a lot of really fantastic people. I didn't serve overseas. When I served, it was the first Gulf War, and that was over really fast. When I joined up in 90, I got sent to, I served at Fort Dix in Jersey, my basic training, then was sent to Fort Gordon in Augusta, Georgia for Signal Corps training. So I was 31 Charlie. And I was lined up where I got sent to eventually, which was Fort Meade in Maryland. And I had my military intelligence training. We were signed up to go overseas to replace the companies that were, and I mean military companies, that were going to go in to Iraq. Because people forget now, because that war was over so fast. Like, the early predictions were that we were going to have a lot of casualties because of the Republican Guard. A lot of people thought they were going to come in and just wipe a lot of Americans out. So there were contingency plans that were laid out to us when we got to our assignments, that we were going to have to go and replace them and possibly, be in a theater of war. So that was the mentality. And I'll tell you this, some people freaked out about it. I remember being in basic training when this guy who had signed up to be 11 Bravo, which is the grunts on the ground there, he found out that as soon as he graduated from basic training, he was being sent into Iraq. And I remember being because where we were in Fort Dix in our barracks, we had payphones. There were 3 payphones that were lined up on the bottom floor outside the rec room, so to speak, which had the TV and the pool table. You could call home, right? You were allowed to call home. You couldn't call home all the time, but you were allowed to call home. I think on Sundays you could make a call. If I remember, it's been a long time ago. But I remember on Sundays you could make a call. But I remember he found out that his baby had just been born, and he had also found out a few days later that he was going to be sent to. So he was like thinking he was never going to see his baby before he went off to war, and he flipped out. And this was not a small dude. This was a young 18, 19-year-old kid who was big, tall and skinny, but big, And it took 3 drill sergeants to take him down because he started flipping out. One drill sergeant grabbed him. 2 other drills came out of the offices, which were right there by the rec room, and ran. And then it was 4 that eventually came and kind of subdued him and put him on the ground. And that was my first window into seeing the reality of the fact that, we might go to war, we might die, and I know now it's kind of comical because of how quickly that war was over. But at the time, it was a very real possibility. And I remember sitting out on the stoop. When I saw that really affected me, because I joined to serve my country, but I also joined to kind of shake my life up a little bit, get a more discipline back in my life, lose some weight, figure out what I want to do with my life. Military served that purpose for me. So when I sat down on the steps, and I had not graduated basic myself, but I sat down on the steps, I just, had a little contemplative think for myself. I signed that dotted line. I need to prepare myself to be ready to die in war. And so, I'm not trying to make a big deal out of it, but it was legitimately what you think because I was 20 years old when I went in. And so to me, it was I hadn't really kind of confronted that because we hadn't had a war since Vietnam. Really. You could call Grenada, I guess, but we hadn't really had a big, large scale war. And people thought that this war was going to be massive. So, yeah, that's what I thought at the time. So I had to really kind of sit down with myself and come to terms with it. And then I called my parents and let them know. And there was a lot of tears on the phone, and so it was that kind of thing, but eventually it didn't happen. I served my time, went to Fort Meade in Maryland, did reserves for a few years and, as well. And so I had a great time. I met a lot of great people. There's a lot of really great people in the military. Yes, there are some dummies. There are some fuck ups. There are some power hungry assholes, but that's in everything in life because some human beings are like that, no matter whether they're serving our country or whether they're working in a company. But that's how it goes. So, but for me, I enjoyed my time. Made a lot of great friends, met people from incredible life experiences and walks of life and all of that. Met some women as well, who served our country, and I ended up dating one for a little while and just kind of enjoyed the whole experience. And it was, something I'm very proud of. I never shy away talking about my service because it was a lot of fun. But of course, other people gave way more, sacrificed more, did more time in the military. So, I am an Army man, a military man, but in no way am I at the level of those people who really served, went overseas, saw war, took bullets, lost limbs, came back damaged from that emotionally and mentally. Those are the people that my heart really goes out to. Those are the people that we need to celebrate and uplift and help in any way that we can in our country, for God's sakes, because they give so much. And I'm always frustrated at how little we care about our veterans. I know we give them lip service, but lip service rarely translates into funding. Lip service rarely translates into better conditions at these VA hospitals. The Walter Reed situation a few years ago, where there was mold on the walls where these soldiers were at. It's madness to me. Every military hospital should be the most optimal, top level hospital that you can create. And our money should be going into that, not creating a slush fund for crybabies from January 6th, for God's sake. Ron says, I could have sworn that way back in the day, He-Man was a restaurant in Chinatown. Then again, so was Masters of the Universe. It was a trendy sushi place. Just kidding. Jesus, Ron. Do better, boy. Ray Dominguez, after watching all the negative reviews, I went to the theater and watched season 4 of Mando Grogu, and I enjoyed it. I really liked Punky Muffin, a.k.a. Stinky. The story wasn't too heavy, I thought. No, it wasn't. It wasn't too heavy, for sure. Shout out to Gundam Hathaway Part 2 in theaters for just a few more days. I'm planning and watching probably the last showing in my city. And shout out to all my anime fans in the building. Yeah, I've been told to go see this and that I don't have to have watched the other Gundam stuff to get it. But I don't know if that's true. Or do I need to have watched the previous Gundam movie in order to get this movie since it's a part 2? But I've never watched any Gundam stuff. So Oppa Gundam style. I've never seen any of that stuff. So let us know, man. Let us know. Ray, and thanks so much for I'm glad you enjoyed Mando and Grogu. I'm glad you enjoyed Stinky as well. Yes. Mike Jones, hope you make time for Chic Detectives and Obsession. I will definitely try, bro. This week I gotta watch these movies. KJ said, thanks for having the guts to say that Paul McCartney's SNL performance was underwhelming. Paul is legendary, but his voice was struggling that night. KJ, his voice has been struggling for a while. It's hard for me. I love Paul. I want him to sing till he can't sing anymore. And I think we've reached that point. And I know people are going now for nostalgia's sake, and they're excusing the voice, and that's their right. And people are selling out. And I know Mance was happy to see him the other day in LA. And I got no qualms about anybody who's enjoying what's going on with Paul. But for me, I've seen Paul McCartney, I think, twice in concert. And both times were just magical experiences. And I watching him at SNL, and I watched him a few months ago on something, and he was singing, and it was the same issue. You know, his voice is no longer strong anymore. So it's tough to watch. So it's a shame overall, because I love that man madly. Ron says, I want a scene in Masters of the Universe where Fisto yells, "You're about to get fisted." I think K. Smith's Masters of the Universe actually used the line. Kevin Smith's actually used the line. LOL. There you go. Bad Sister McCall. Rocha, what is the scariest horror movie and moment in the 2000s? Record, I guess. The Witch and The Descent are my picks, but the car scene in Hereditary floored me. Oh, yeah. The Descent's amazing. I just recently paid for AMC Plus, which is right now, I think it's still, the special's still going on. It's $30 for the year. Highly recommended, especially if you like horror content, because Shudder comes with the package. You get Shudder on the main page there at AMC Plus. Again, $30 for 12 months. Pretty good. Make sure you cancel, make sure you put notices to cancel before it hits that year mark. But $30 for the year. You get Shudder, you get Sundance Now, you get a bunch of the AMC shows, AMC Plus shows. It's really good stuff, and a lot of movies. So there's a lot of content on there. I think there's some international content as well, some international movies. So highly recommend it. The Descent is on there, both the unrated version and the rated version. I've never seen the unrated version. The rated version messed me up already, so I want to see the unrated version as well. Scariest horror movie and moment in the 2000s. I mean, it still scares the shit out of me. The first It movie. I remember it like hanging off the ceiling in that projector scene in that movie. So the thing with clowns, and I was always scared as a kid, so of things in the night. So to me, that's the movie that really kind of fucked me up overall. But Hereditary is a very close second. I mean, that's a really good film. Mike Joyce says, I just ate a few bites from a delicious pork carnitas burrito from Cilantro Lime Grill that I left in my car 2 days ago. Not a smart move, right? No, it isn't. And when you get food poisoning, Mike, I don't want to hear it. What's wrong with you? Come on, guys. Don't do dumb stuff like this, because it will mess you up, especially as you get older. And especially if your body is not in peak physical condition, you will be suffering, for God's sakes. Comic lover, free speech, much respect, love to you, Rocha, you sack of shit. There you go. See, you can speak your speech as you see fit. You sent $2 in to call me a sack of shit. There you go, freedom of speech. I mean, but you're watching me. You're watching me. I'm not watching you. So who's the real sack of shit? Let's tell the truth. Roots 75 says, am I the only persons on that really felt like the Hutts hurt the movie? No, I don't think you are. A lot of people felt like the CGI on the Hutts wasn't great and hurt the movie. And so, yeah, you're not alone on that. I think a lot of people felt that way. Here, let me move this down. I keep forgetting that I lean back a little bit. There we go. Yeah, a lot of people felt that way about the Hutts. Not a strong part of the movie. So, yeah, no, you're not alone at all. Grinning Wombat. Nice. Skipped Mando and saw Obsession. What a fantastic movie with tons to say. Love this era where comedians are horror masterminds. Peele, Kreger, Barker. Yeah, I'm not too familiar with Barker, so this will be my first experience with him. Was he a YouTube guy who did comedy sketches, I guess? I thought he was Clive Barker's son, which is where my mind went to. If it's a horror movie, I just thought that. But I'm not too familiar with Curry Barker. That being said, I agree with you. Zach Kreger, Jordan Peele have been doing some great horror. I'm looking forward to Kreger's Resident Evil. I've loved everything I've seen from that. So we will see what the end result of that is. And I'm waiting for Jordan to do another movie. I liked Us. I loved Get Out. And I think Nope was good. Not great, but I thought it was good. So I'm looking forward to the next one from Peele as well. And Curry's doing the Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie, so that'd be interesting. Ron, I would pitch a show/film called Double O. Bond has retired, perhaps taken up the post of M. He now looks to recruit the next gen of spies. That's a great idea. Ron, that's the best post you've sent all day. That's a great idea. I love that idea, where the retired Bond elevates to M and is the one who selects that. Wouldn't that be a great way to bring Daniel Craig back? Oh, well, no, I guess he died. So possibly. Didn't see a body. You never know. But that would be fun to see a full. I mean, imagine Pierce Brosnan coming back as M to recruit the next Bond. Dude, that could be a lot of fun, to be honest with you. What if Timothy Dalton is still alive in the Bond as a Bond? So like all the older Bonds who are still alive could come back in some shape or form. That would be a lot of fun. Let's see. All right. What else have we got here? All right. Dancing Dog, the horror model is the way to go. Lower budgets, creative scripts, concepts, always making a profit. Comic book films can learn from the horror model. Yeah, to a degree, bro, because people don't go into a horror movie going like, how great are the special effects? Like, is it going to match what I read in the comic books? That's a whole nother concept. I mean, a whole nother set of expectations. So I think your general point makes sense. You do it for lower budgets and better creative scripts, concepts. Of course, if you couldn't get away with that. But it's really hard to do an effective superhero movie that satisfies the fans without spending a lot of money. It's really hard because the special effects are going to cost a lot of budget. I mean, Sheep Detective is $85 million. That was the budget. I'm sure that a lot of that is the special effects of just having those CGI animals on the screen. So, it's a lot of money to put into a movie to do these kinds of things. You would just get more ground-based superhero films, and I don't think the mass public would be okay with just exclusively ground-based superhero films. You've got to give them spectacle. One of the things we love as comic book readers is the spectacle on the page, right? So imagine Civil War without the airplane or the airport battle. It's not as cool. So those things matter. Imagine Avengers Endgame. That ending is just like 3 or 4 people. Like it wouldn't be as strong. So, it's just those things you have to kind of factor into. But the general point you're making, I like. It's just that when it comes to comic book movies, it's really hard to do that consistently and be able to grow your brand or your franchise to the colossal numbers you need it to grow to. KJ says, Supergirl runtime is 1 hour and 50 minutes with credits. Does that make you nervous? The movie may not have a lot of character development. It does kind of make me nervous, 1 hour and 50. 2 hours, I think, would have made more sense. If 1 hour and 50 with credits, that means it's probably 1 hour and 40 because those usually the special effect credits are like 10 minutes long. So 1 hour and 40 for a Supergirl movie, yeah, I'm not a big fan of that. I don't think it should be 2.5 hours or anything like that, but 2 hours I think is a good sweet spot. So you get about 1 hour and 50 minutes of a movie. So, but we'll see. Maybe it's a tight 1 hour 40 and it's a lot of fun. I don't know. We'll see. But it does make me nervous. As the Chronicle showed you don't need $1 billion effects. Yes, again, but no one goes into Chronicle going like, I've read all the comics of Chronicle. It better mirror what I saw in the comics. I think it was a comic, but it wasn't fucking Superman or Batman. So, or, the Avengers. People go in with expectations and you can't make it for the Chronicle money to be effective. Could you do occasional movies like that in the overall brand of Marvel or DC or even Star Wars? Yes, I think you can, but not as the main output of your brand or franchise. People come for the spectacle. That's why those movies make $1 billion when they're successful, or $2 billion, over $2 billion as Endgame and I think Infinity War did. Danny's for people in the crowd for my Mando viewing, yikes. Okay, 4 people in the crowd for my Mando viewing, yikes. Okay. Mr. Nico 28 soccer. Nico 28 soccer. Support for you, John. Thank you. Thank you for the years and years of entertainment, hard work, and effort. Keep up the great work. It's always appreciated. Oh, thank you, Nico. I appreciate that. Thank you. So many people tell me to quit, tell me I'm not doing well, tell me my views are not great. They always come in, always have like 5 subscribers on YouTube, but they always come in with their negative comments. So, it can be a bit much sometimes, but I always appreciate people who appreciate the work I've done, who appreciate how I've done the work and how proud I am of the shows we've created there on the channel, because I think we have really good shows on that channel that bring enjoyment to people when they watch them. So thank you very much, Nico. Appreciate you. And also my podcast, The Cinephiles. Mike Joyce says, favorite fictional veteran. Mine's Walter Sobchak. That makes all the sense in the world that yours is. I think Rambo, right? I mean, Rambo is my favorite. I can't deny that I love John Rambo. I like all the movies, 3 a little bit less, but I like all the movies. I defended the last movie against all these people who said it was a red state fantasy movie, which I thought was nonsense. I thought it was a damn good movie. I've enjoyed Last Blood. I got to interview Stallone, which was truly a life highlight, man. Being in the room with him and him saying to me, that what I asked him was an intelligent question. That meant a lot. And then when he asked me, one of the few people he asked to stay after to ask questions of him and the two ladies who were part of the movie, the two Latina ladies who were part of the movie, that was a true honor to be able to do that, and I know he's supporting who he supports, but I still love Sylvester Stallone. Will always love Sylvester Stallone. And I love his John Rambo. Honestly, I do. Dancing Dog 6 seems like today's fans can't separate the actors from the superheroes they play. I've heard fans say, for example, Cox is Daredevil. No, he's acting. Well, that's always been the case, bro. It isn't just today. I mean, William Shatner was typecast as Captain Kirk for years. Jason Alexander talked about being typecast as George for years. So that's always been the case. I think, in fact, it was worse back then than it is now. I think it's much better now. There are still people who feel that way, but there's a great I read a great story on, God, what's his name? The actor who played the bad guy in Die Hard, The Reporter, and also in Ghostbusters, same guy, same actor. He talked about that a majority of the 80s and 90s, for a long time in the 80s and 90s, he would walk into a bar and he would have moments where people would try to start fights with him because he was the villain in those movies. People couldn't separate him as an actor playing those villains because they love those movies so much. And those are iconic movies, Die Hard and Ghostbusters, that they would call him names. They would try to pick fights with him. It was a real deal. So I would say now people understand that it's fictional entertainment much more than they did back then. And that applies to wrestling as well. Right now, everyone understands pro wrestling. They're all characters. They all do interviews. They break characters all the time. So it's not the way like it was before. But I hear you. It's still there. Ron says, Rocha, the So Chat should have been numbered, and you have Game of Thrones to see the IE clip. LOL. Yeah, Game of Thrones. Okay. IE, I don't know. Is that a clip?
Ron H. Is Winston that old that he actually knows what jumping the shark is? IE? I mean, well, that's...
Hey.
I said IE. So that's
you did.
So
I was
great.
confused.
What's so great about that is that I was like, I don't know if he necessarily knows the show, but you quoted the show correctly as I said IE.
Oh, it's a Fonzie reference. Hey, well, it's not spelled A-I-E-E. Anybody who has got a brain in their heads knows that it was A-Y-Y-Y-Y. I mean, if I had a picture of the T-shirt that they sold back in the 70s and 80s of the Fonz with Henry Winkler going like this, and it says A-Y-Y-Y-Y, not A-I-E-E. Who the fuck spells it like that? It's A, not A-I-E. What? That's not on me. That is not on me. The All Yankee says, thanks for flying solo today and all you do, Rocha. Thank you, the All Yankee. I appreciate you, bro. It's always nice to see you, my man. Thanks so much for the super chat. Dancing Dog, they thought Batman was T'Challa. They call Olsen Wanda. It's ridiculous. These are actors. They don't write scripts. Drive me effing crazy. Well, I think what you should save your vitriol for, as opposed to this, which I think is a small minority of people who feel this way, save your vitriol for the people who go after the actors who are simply cast in something. Like the fact that people went after Lupita on her social media for being cast as Helen of Troy in the movie. She didn't cast herself. She's not the casting director. She's not the director of the movie. She is an actress who auditioned for a role and booked the role. I'm so tired of these knuckle-dragging mongoloids who go after actors who are simply doing a role, playing a role, auditioning, got a role so they could pay their bills. They could pay their rent or their mortgages. And they don't attack the filmmakers with the same vitriol that they attack the actors, especially if it's a woman of color or a black woman or a person of color, a man of color or a black man. Like they attack them so hard, so strong, or gay, LGBTQ plus, like they attack. So why? Attack the directors, attack the casting directors if you want. I mean, don't attack anybody, to be honest with you. Don't attack anybody. Let's see the final product. Then you can have an actual honest opinion on it. But like, if you're going to attack anybody, I don't know why you would attack the actors who are simply just doing a fucking job, I think that's all jealousy because, their lives didn't work out. They didn't pursue their dreams or get to pursue their dreams. Other people have. And so they're mad that they're successful doing that. Dancing says, other than that, I have no opinion. Thank you, Dancing Dog. I appreciate that. Trey Porter says, I went to AEW Double or Nothing last night. Oh, nice. My voice is shot right now, but it was an amazing experience. Trey, Did you get? I saw the footage afterwards of how that the show ended super late, and apparently some of the transportation, the public transportation, had shut down by the time the show ended, and people were in these massive lines. I think getting Ubers or getting buses lined up or something. So, did you get caught in that, or were you staying near the venue, so you just kind of walked over to your hotel room, or did you get out in time before all that madness? Look, I'm all for a great show that goes longer than you think because you're satisfying the fans. And I heard this was a really good show, but like you've got to take care of your people and get them back to their homes. So I wonder what happened with that. Trey, let me know in the chat, please. Yes, thank you, PLD. William Atherton was the guy it was referencing. As you can tell, I'm out of Schmodown training and experience, but William Atherton is the guy from Die Hard and Ghostbusters who talked about how he would get confronted by that stuff. Batters says, Happy Memorial Day, Rocha solo show. No thanks. Oh, that's a shame. Your dad's still watching, though. Andrew Sanchez says, do you think Doomsday will be longer than the Odyssey? No. I think Doomsday will be longer than the Odyssey, yes. Because the Odyssey is what, 252? Yeah, I think Doomsday is 3 hours for sure. I do think that. I do think that. It could come at 2 hours 45, maybe, because they want Secret Wars to be 3 hours, but people will stick around for a 3-hour Marvel movie. So, yeah, I think it'll be longer. Right now, I think it'll be longer. Sorry, guys. Bushman says, Happy Memorial Day. With you liking Mando more than most, did you like it better or less than these MCU films, Thunderbolt, Shang-Chi, F4, Ant-Man 2? Well, the premise of your question is wrong because the critics' score is 62%, which means those of us who liked it are actually in the majority. The people who didn't like it are in the minority. Now, I may be in the minority of the people you watch or listen to, but I'm not in the overall minority of the critics who went to see the movie because it's a 62%. 62 is higher than 50. So I'm on the side of a majority of the critics who liked the movie or thought it was fun or enjoyed their experience. So did I like it more or less than these MCU films? Thunderbolts, Shang-Chi, F4, Ant-Man 2. I definitely liked it more than Ant-Man 2. I'm not a fan of Ant-Man and the Wasp that much. I think it's fine, but it's not that great. Fantastic Four, was it better than Fantastic Four? I think it's about equal with Fantastic Four, but it's not better than Shang-Chi or Thunderbolts. I love Thunderbolts. Even though I do think they kind of went the simpler route to mental health, I still appreciated them tackling it. But I like, I'm a big fan of Florence Pugh, as has been, said on the show. And I really enjoyed her in that movie. And I like a lot of that, of Thunderbolts. Shang-Chi, though, man. Shang-Chi's fucking excellent. I still get mad. I was thinking about that the other day. I got upset randomly in my living room the other day that Simu Liu never got a sequel. It is a fucking crime that he never got a sequel. I don't know if it was a racist thing, like not having an Asian thing. I don't know if it didn't do enough money during COVID. I don't know what the reasons are, but it's fucking mind-blowing to me that we've never gotten a Shang-Chi 2. And we're only going to see him in Doomsday, which they showed in the trailer. He appears in the trailer. So it's just frustrating that we never got a sequel to that because that movie deserved a sequel. And it's a damn shame because there have been some terrible sequels for some Marvel movies, Swazi 8455s, they should reboot Star Wars 1, 2, and 3. No. A lot of Gen Z thinks the movies look so outdated to watch them. I don't know. Seems like a reasonable choice. Fuck no. They should not reboot those movies in any way, shape, or form. Now, should they recast those roles? Yes. I've been on record. You guys know this. Some of you have watched me for years. I've been on record saying that they should absolutely recast Luke, Leia, and Han and tell those stories because there's a lot of rich stories to be told from that time in the universe. Pick the right people. I don't know if you bring back Alden Ehrenreich. I don't know. Maybe. But you got to pick the right people to play these roles and recast them. But I think you definitely should leave the original trilogy alone. That still stands up for a lot of people. If there are some Gen Zs who don't like it, that's fine. Y'all can kiss my ass. The original trilogy is still damn good, still effective. I watched some of New Hope the other day on TNT, and I was like, it's still a good damn movie. I don't care what anybody says. And it wasn't nostalgia talking. It was honest talking. Yeah, some of the special effects are outdated. Sure, whatever. That's kind of how it goes. But one day the movies from this time are going to be outdated, and you're going to love them still and fight for them. That's kind of how it goes, man. Fuzzy Bubbles says, go Knicks. Thanks, Danhausen. Yes, he removed the curse. Johnny Patrice, I thought City would have played a lot harder. I agree. I was shocked that they capitulated to Aston Villa. That was a really surprising thing. And that they drew at, was it Burnley or wherever they drew earlier in the week. Frustrating, Johnny. Matty B says, I was 8 years old in 1990. I remember the Gulf War Desert Storm a little being on the news. I remember the Desert Storm trading cards. Oh, God, yes, the Desert Storm trading cards. Some of these ideas, man. Yeah, Matty B, it was on the TV, absolutely. Ron says, I figure the He-Man and Masters, might be on the edge. Yeah, in retrospect, stupid, very stupid, my bad. Thank you, Ron. Thanks for recognizing that. Yeah, you don't want to, yeah. Don't. If you're Asian making an Asian joke, totally fine. If you're not Asian making an Asian, maybe don't, Dance Dog 60, thank you for your service, Rocha. Thank you. My dad was a vet, and he never talked about it, though. Only when drinking. Oh, and old bone spurs can poof off. I don't disagree with you there. But yeah, I hear you on that with your dad. I grew up at a time, when a lot of my friends in middle school and high school, their dads had served in Vietnam. And so I'd heard stories about their experiences with their fathers who would wake up screaming in the middle of the night, who wouldn't talk about their service. And if you ever brought it up, would just go silent on the couch, but then would drink and stuff would come out and anger would come out, frustration, tears. So yeah, not everybody, obviously not all the dads, but certainly there were a few that, we would talk, my friends and I would talk, and they would tell me about their experiences with their father's experience in Vietnam. Obviously my dad was, is from Bolivia. He was an immigrant to the country, he didn't serve. So I didn't hear any stories of any of his service. But like the kids that I was friends with, black and white, that I knew, and a couple of Asian kids that I knew that I grew up with whose fathers had served as well in the American military, they would tell me about the experiences that they had with their fathers doing it, and how their mothers dealt with it. And yes, there was some abuse because fathers, because of the PTSD and stuff. And so it was pretty harrowing. So I think your father not talking about it makes sense, because a lot of people from Vietnam didn't talk about their experiences because they did some stuff or they saw some stuff that they are horrified that they ever witnessed and had a hard time processing. Because again, therapy wasn't as big then as it is now. I think there'd be a lot more of a push to get those dads into therapy to help them deal with this stuff. So yeah. Daniel Polito says, thank you for your service, Rocha. Thank you, Daniel. Appreciate you. Michael D81 says, support for the show. Thank you, Michael. Is that me as is that me as Dr. Manhattan? That is fucking hilarious. That is great. That is fucking great. Oh my God. That should be a t-shirt. Jesus Christ, that should be a t-shirt. Although with a thinner, I would like a thinner. I mean, I've lost weight, so I would like a thinner picture of me, but yes, okay, fine. Christopher Bricknell says, how good a sign is it that Mandalorian and Grogu made much more than the original estimated 80 million 4-day total at an estimated 102 million 4-day? Yeah, I think it's good, of course. As I said, I think it's a really good sign. Hopefully word of mouth is what's getting people into the theater and they're going to see it, because it is a fun time. Whether it's a good movie or not, that's for you to decide. But I think it's a fun time overall. It's safe, it's inoffensive, but there are some badass sequences at the beginning. I think the action sequences are great. Creature effects are a lot of fun. Is it a strong film? No, I wouldn't say strong, but certainly enjoyable. And you could do worse. You could do a lot worse for that situation. So yeah, I think it's great. Ron says, Rocha, to all your haters, fook them. Hell, fook their fathers. Whoa, you've done it before. You can go buck wild now. Yeah, there you go. Are there haters in here again? Well, there's always haters for me because I'm outspoken. So people are going to naturally bristle at it. And so it's just the game. It's the way it goes. But thank you, man. I appreciate you, Ron. Poot Shoot Riot. What was up with the Hutt twins sleeping 69 style? Obsession was great. Check it out, Pastor, tomorrow. Thank you for your service and your shows. Thank you, Poot Shoot. I appreciate you. Yeah, I think you're supposed to feel creepy about the Hutts. That's those sound effects of the Hutts slamming into each other, slithering all over each other was like so icky, man. So you're supposed to feel that way. So having them sleep in a 69 position is not surprising to me. God knows what kind of incestuous shit goes on with the Hutts. Ron says, okay, so Google says it's spelled A. I told you. The point is, how does Kristian even read A as A? You know him better, so what gives LOL? Well, because it's spelled that way. I said it that way. A, yeah, that is weird. A is how it is. A-Y-Y-Y-Y. So there you go. Supervash says, kudos to you, Rocha, doing a solo show. Thank you. What did you think of the boys finale? It did Homelander dirty. Yeah, I gotta agree with you. I liked this season overall better than last season. I do agree with some people who felt last season was a bit on the nose. I do agree with that. This season tried to be ahead of the curve, but they didn't anticipate that the people they were mocking would do the stuff that they thought was outrageous or outlandish for someone to do, that they would absolutely do that. Well, I'm thinking of the golden statue situation and the religious stuff, which is really so weird. But I thought the season was a lot better than last season. Well, better, not a lot better, but better than last season. But there were some confounding things. What happened with Black Noir and the Deep was really weird. I think that finale wasn't strong. And I think this was a limit of the budget to keep it in one enclosed space in the White House office to have that final battle, considering the powers that are at play. To put him in a concealed room, to me, eliminated a lot of the spectacle of what a battle like that would actually be like in the comics. And the way they ended it was also kind of like, well, I guess we got this satisfaction in the end. But yeah, I think it wasn't as strong as it could have been, which is frustrating because I was defending the show to the finale. Trey Porter, I left right after the main event ended. My friend and I were on the last train to Penn Station to get home to Jersey before that all went down. Smart. Congratulations, Trey. I'm glad you got out of there because the images I saw were pretty insane. So yeah, good. I'm glad you enjoyed it though. And I'm going to try to watch it this week at some point. Did you watch it, PLD? Do you pay for the AEW stuff? Let me know in the private chat. The ones who were stuck were Jersey people trying to get back to Penn Station who were just stuck in Queens in the dead of the night. Ooh, no thanks. Whoa, no thanks, bro. No thanks. Oof. Yeah, I'm sure Jersey people did not deal with that well. Stuck in Queens in the dead of the night. Dancing on 60 fictional characters should be recast. Yes, recast. Yes, absolutely. Ron says, I am Asian. Oh, well, then you make all the jokes you want then, bro, but you got to let us know that ahead of time. Do you and Christian H think I'm Ron Howard? Not him, really. No, I don't think you're Ron Howard. Why would I think you're Ron Howard? Ron H is not necessarily Ron Howard. I don't know if Christian thinks you're Ron Howard. Christopher Brickner says, weeks ago, Nielsen said The Mandalorian was the most watched Star Wars products for ages 2 to 13 and ages 62 to 80. Sorry, these age groups gave the film the highest grades. You think 2 to 13-year-olds were giving grades for The Mandalorian and Grogu? Where was a 2-year-old giving a grade exactly, Christopher? Where was that happening? I would love to know who was polling 2-year-olds for The Mandalorian and Grogu for the film. So, yeah, 62. And there's not a lot of critics that are 2 to 13 years old or 62 to 80 that would go to 62% on Rotten Tomatoes. So your entire post is completely wrong, except for the first part, which I'm not surprised that The Mandalorian was the most watched Star Wars products for ages 2 to 13, 62 to 80. Yeah, I'm not surprised. Well, I think that's false. I think there's a lot of people who are older than 13 that loved The Mandalorian and Grogu's first 2 seasons. Pretty much every person I know in this space who loved it, and they're not 62 to 80 years old. So yeah. But nice try, bud. Ron also says, okay, I freely admit that sometimes us super chatters use colorful language or omit words that would have clarified things. Yes, 100%. It helps. But Kristian Harloff and perhaps yourself has to read better. No. It's not our job to do your work for you. Spell better. And it does not. Reading is fundamental. I saw that on TV once. You did, yeah. Kind of. Nick Sweep tonight says Dancing Dog 60. Probably. The Cavaliers, ever since they blew that 22-point lead, they have never been mentally able to come back to level. That first game broke them. I think it broke them. And so it's a shame because the Cavaliers, I think, are as good of a team as the Knicks, but they're not showing it. They're not showing it. PLD, did you watch it? I do not. Oh, you don't watch AEW anymore. Okay. KJ says, speaking of the military, I am surprised that an A-list actress has never remade Private Benjamin. What do you think of the original? You know what? That's one of the gaps in my 80s repertoire of movies is Private Benjamin. I never saw it. It kind of hit at a time when I wasn't watching those kinds of movies. Although I watched Goldie Hawn, like I watched Foul Play, probably more for Chevy Chase at the time. But I never saw Private Benjamin. I should see that movie. But I agree with you. It was a TV series in the 80s as well, but I think it only lasted a season or two. But I agree with you that an A-list actor should remake Private, especially now where like we're kind of seeing a right-wing element coming into making movies, more the Angel Studios, more Christian stuff, more historical stuff. So maybe and military stuff. So why wouldn't a Private you know what? Taylor Sheridan writing a Private Benjamin movie challenging himself to write a comedy, I think could be really interesting. A Private Benjamin written by Taylor Sheridan as a feature film. Who would star in Private Benjamin? I guess you would think, I know a lot of people think Sydney Sweeney, but Margot Robbie would be an interesting choice. But there's not a lot of I guess you get Kate Hudson to reprise her mom's role, but I think Kate's almost 50, isn't she? So I don't know that would work necessarily, isn't she? Or am I misjudging? She's 47, yeah, so she's almost 50. Let me see, what young comedic actresses? Maybe Chloe Fineman, but I don't know that she's I don't know if she would be a box office draw necessarily. Ooh, Emma Stone. Although, how old is Emma? Emma's 37. Yeah, it could work. That could work, I suppose. Let's see. Funniest actresses under 30. Florence Pugh. No, that would not work. Reddit, you're not doing a good job here. Taylor Tomlinson. No, people wouldn't see that. Caitlin Dever, I guess maybe because she played a military, a girl that goes into the military in that sitcom she did with Tim Allen. Any of the girls from the Dairy Girls? Yeah, I guess maybe. That could be interesting. Nicola Coughlan, who is really good in what the Netflix show Bridgerton, and I watch her series on Tubi, Big Mouth. Highly, highly recommend that series, especially if you are someone who deals with or has dealt with someone who has mental health episodes. It's a comedy, but it's kind of a dark comedy about her dealing with her condition, where she can slide into depression for days and how it affects her friends and her family. But then they get into these kind of crazy scenarios. So highly recommend that show. It's on Tubi. It's 6 episodes per season. Both seasons are up there, and they're like 22 minutes, 25 minutes an episode, or 30 maybe at the most. It's a quick watch and a fun watch. I highly recommend it. It is British, but it's very funny. So Nicola Coughlan, though, playing Private Benjamin, because she's not like a skinny mini. That could be an interesting thing to see her. And she's very funny. Could be a funny American approach, a reboot approach, casting a British actress to play the American character. That could be a fascinating approach for Nicola Coughlan as a next step. I think that'd be great. And she would deal with the fat shaming stuff. She would deal with being a woman in a predominantly male situation. There could be a lot of comedy for 2026 if she was to do that film. That would be a lot of fun. Kristian Unpronounceable says, have you watched last night's R&M yet? I just downloaded it. Forgive me, what's R&M? Can you guys enlighten me what R&M is? I may just not be thinking it right now. And I was just dealing with the Linda's family all weekend, the Lady Atlas family all weekend. So what is R&M? Romeo, what is it? What is Samara Weaving could be interesting as Private Benjamin as well. PLD, good suggestion. Have you watched last night's R&M yet? No. Can you enlighten me? Can one of you guys enlighten me what R&M is? Oh, Rick and Morty. Oh, I don't watch Rick and Morty, guys. Sorry. It's one of those ones that I just didn't give a chance to, and it feels like there's so many episodes that it would be really hard to come back and catch up on it. But I know a lot of people love Rick and Morty. So yeah, no, I have not seen it. I should start the process of watching it. Dancer Dog says Anna Faris was once attached to a Benjamin. Oh, Anna Faris would have been great. Yes, at the height of Anna Faris, Private Benjamin, she would have been great in that role. 100%. 100%. I don't think her Overboard was that great, but that's for a number of reasons that have nothing to do with her. We'll see how Scary Movie 6 does, too, because she's obviously going to be leading that. Ron H says, reading is fundamental. No reading, Super Chats, game, set, match, Rocha. There you go. Nice job, Ron. Christopher Bricknell says, I meant from the audience response for Mandalorian film for ages 2 to 13. This came from a post-track and cinema score ready to Hollywood Reporter. But again, audience response, how do you know how a 2-year-old is responding to a movie? That seems weird from the Hollywood Reporter to say that. So this is not you saying this, Christopher. It's Hollywood. So I'll go after the Hollywood Reporter on this. I don't understand. How are you getting the reactions of a 2-year-old? That's so weird to me to put that in their analysis. Guys, am I wrong on this? Do you think this is weird for me to be bumping on this? That they would actually, do you think any 2 or 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds, 5-year-olds, I'll tell you what, 5-year-olds, maybe I can believe, 5, 6, maybe I can believe. You're not talking to a 2-year-old about Mando. You're not watching how they're reacting to a movie, are you? It seems odd to me on so many levels. Dan says, I would cast Ariana Grande as Benjamin. That's a great choice. Ariana Grande would be fantastic as Private Benjamin, especially all the work she did on SNL. 100%. You get no arguments from me. Andrew Sanchez says, are you looking forward to Vought Rising? Love Jensen as Soldier Boy, and if it's success, will they continue with him in a post-Homelander world? Now, to ask me if I'm excited about it is an interesting thing. I mean, remember, these people are white supremacists, okay? Like, don't forget, as much as you love Soldier Boy, he's a super fucking racist. Aya Cash's character Stormfront is a Nazi. So, and you have black superheroes that are coming in who are maybe part of the experiment, and maybe they're like Isaiah Bradley types who come in to fight back. So I want to see more of what their role is in the show, because I do not want to watch a bunch of supers who are hateful without a counter. That's why The Boys was good, because you saw that some of these supers were pretty hateful people, but you had The Boys and specifically Huey as a counter, and Starlight, of course, who realized what the madness was within the group once she got in it. So as long as there's elements of that counter, but remember, they succeed. So you're going to see some pretty hard stuff. And I don't know necessarily that we want to see that. So that's my concern. Okay, those are my concerns. That being said, I like the trailer. I am going to watch it, but I'm curious to see how they handle this stuff, because they're not heroes. They're not heroes, these people. So I'm going to be interested to see how that all goes down, you know? So that's my concern with Vought Rising. So we will see. We will see. Literally, they're Nazis. Exactly what I'm saying, David. So I want to create space that they're going to be, because if they even try to make them people you should be cheering for or be empathetic for, I'm going to have some issues, you know, because as much as I enjoy Jensen Ackles as Soldier Boy, I don't like Soldier Boy. I'm not cheering for Soldier Boy in The Boys. And even if Homelander is a nutball and is worse than Soldier Boy is still pretty fucking bad. So, you know, it's not, and the way he talks about women, I mean, we're going to see him doing some pretty nefarious shit with some of these women as well. So just so we're clear, the show is not going to be Vought Rising and Soldier Boy is the hero of the fucking show. And if they do that, no thanks. I will happily not watch that show, you know, or Aya Cash's Stormfront as a hero when she's a fucking Nazi. No thanks. So we'll see. So hopefully they have a counter to those guys to simulate what you got in The Boys. So yeah. All right. So I think that's all the questions. We've gotten to the hour mark. We've gotten to 11 o'clock. Thank you guys so much for watching this special episode of the Kristian Harloff Show here on Memorial Day. Thank you for hanging out with me. Much love to Kristian for asking me to do this solo. Thank you to PLD for riding shotgun, but really riding in the back of the car with me, way back in the car, helping me out here. I appreciate it. And of course, thanks to Luke for sending the stories in ahead of time. And thanks to all of you for hanging out with me. Thanks for your super chats, rather. We appreciate y'all madly. You guys are amazing. Thanks for all the kind words. And please have a good Memorial Day. Take a moment, you know, send some love out to anybody who served our country and gave the ultimate sacrifice. Please make sure if you know anyone, you send a message, whether a text or a call or something on social media, to give them a shout out, because I'm telling you, people who serve the country don't get as much love as you think they do. On these special days, they do, but they would appreciate hearing from everybody, because the service is hard. It's not easy. And it takes a lot out of you, and especially those who serve in theaters of war. So please make sure you take time to send them some love and give them some appreciation for their service to our country and to our world. All right, there you go. Thank you so much. You can follow me at The Rocha Says on all social media. Please remember to subscribe to my channel, youtube.com/John Rocha Says. Trying to get to that 50,000 subscribers. We're at 41,000 something. Would love for all of you, thousands of you who watch these shows, to come and subscribe to my channel. I promise you great content, fun content that you all can enjoy. And yes, I go and battle people, and sometimes they're right, sometimes I'm right. It's a fun time. It's a very open, fun channel with debates, especially the hot mic, for God's sake. So please subscribe there, youtube.com/John Rocha Says. One last one here from Comic Lover. Agrees so many shows with not enough good people to root for, which is why I find myself watching anime more and more these days. Hey, that's a fair point. Actually, that's a fair point, Comic Lover. So respect to you. Appreciate you coming in. All right, take care of yourselves, guys. Everybody, again, thanks to everybody who helped out on the show, PLD and everybody. So we'll talk to you next time with another brand new episode here of the Kristian Harloff Show. Take care and peace. Until then.